Heavy sandbag lifting does a lot of things. It builds strongman strength, cage fighter conditioning, martial artist-like mental toughness, and at least as much as everything else, it gets you yoked. Yoked and muscled like a wrestler on the mat. That's what I want to focus on today. Yoked. It's a particular look of power that only comes from real hard training. Most of the look is obvious and often talked about. A yoked person has a thick neck and traps up to his ears. His shoulders are broad, as is his upper back and lats. You can often expect disproportionately, though not unaesthetically large, glutes and forearms too. Those things are easy to see and hard to miss, but there's another aspect to the yoked appearance that must be there. In fact, it's always there when someone is truly yoked. It ties everything together, though it often goes unnoticed. Like the empty space in a room, equally as important as the stuff within that space, as there couldn't be things without it, one muscle group acts as the true sign of yokedness, the spinal erectors. You don't often hear people talk about spinal erector mass. For every 200 videos out there on getting wide shoulders, my bet is there's exactly 0.76 videos on developing those cable-like ropes of muscle that run up and along either side of the spine. It's a shame, though not surprising. We like flashy things. Who cares about the tires? What's the paint job like? Hurry up and get the foundation set so we can decorate the walls. It's never seeing the tree for its roots, and that's what the spinal erectors are, the roots of the tree. Aside from being less flashy, another reason the muscle group doesn't get as much time in the spotlight is because to develop it, you need to put in some real work with heavy weights. Now, I don't want to give the wrong impression. There's no right or wrong way to train. 3 RIR sets on the curl machine are just as valid as heavy lifting if that's your thing, but with the spinal erectors, I don't believe you can ever fake it. Let me quickly give a few examples to explain what I mean. The upper back screams strength and power, and yet you can get it huge by taking out that portable seatbelt you have in your gym bag, strapping into a cable station, looping that cuff thing around your elbow, and pumping away lightweight sets all day. The upper traps give you that pro wrestler Goldberg look, a look that at first sight makes a person think, that's a strong dude, and yet you can get big traps with lightweight machines too. Simply lock in and shrug away. Most muscles are like this. You can build the appearance of strength without ever actually doing any heavy lifting. Again, that's cool, and there's nothing superior about heavy lifting versus typical gym bro stuff. That's not what I mean to say, but when it comes to the spinal erectors, the system isn't so easily gamed. There are isolation moves for the muscle group like flexion rows or other usually lightweight things, but telling it how it is, I've never seen anyone with truly impressive spinal erectors who didn't spend at least some of his time lifting heavy weights. That's how the muscle group grows best, generally through stabilizing the spine during heavy lifting. Deadlifts are awesome for this, and you can pretty much guarantee anyone pulling above double body weight conventional for reps will have those steel cables running up his back. On the other hand, you can also bet someone who tries to get to that same place with lightweight isolation is probably going to have a hard time of it. The spinal erectors thrive on heavy lifting, and that's what makes them such an important part of the yoked look. You can look pretty strong without actually being strong, but to be yoked, strength is required, and that's what makes the look so awesome. It's a look of power that is only fully attainable by becoming powerful. Back to sandbags. I try to avoid saying things like, this training tool is better than that one, if I can. Any training is better than none, but here I have to make an exception. When it comes to spinal erector development, I don't think anything even comes close to sandbags. The awkward, bulky nature of sandbags and the required awkward positions you have to get into to lift them means the spinal erectors get worked in ways they never will elsewhere. Sandbags get them so thick they become like the forearms or the neck, instantly visible, even when wearing a shirt. All of that said, today I want to look at 3 of the best sandbag exercises for the spinal erectors. Each one focuses on a different area, the lower portion, the middle, and the upper. Add these 3 to your training and get yoked. Beginning with the lower spinal erectors, probably the most important section for staying injury-free and lifting the heaviest weights, we have the sandbag row. The exercise is pretty basic, really just a standard row like you might do with any training tool, but what makes it special is the position you row from. Sandbags rest directly on the ground, and the heavier they are, the wider they get. Add these things together, and the starting position for a sandbag row is likely to be completely bent over, chest down near the ground. It's difficult enough getting into that position and standing there. In fact, most people won't even be able to do it without some lower back rounding, placing even more tension on that lower portion of the spinal erectors. Add the actual row, and you have an exercise that is guaranteed to add all kinds of size, equal to, and with time, possibly greater than what you'd get lifting traditional weights in the traditional way. At least that's how it went for me. Sandbag rows also seem to cause something similar to that what the hell effect often associated with kettlebell swings. Every single person I've talked with, myself included, who wasn't doing rows very often, then started focusing on them, going hard at least once a week if not more, suddenly one day found that all of sandbag lifting became easier. The exercise improves every fundamental thing needed for lifting heavy sandbags. It adds a lot of size and strength to the hamstrings, arms, and lower back, really the entirety of the core, the upper back too, and every rep is a lesson in proper bracing. It gives you that bulletproof feeling, a feeling of stability. It really is true. A stronger sandbag row means a stronger sandbag everything. As for how to do the exercise, simply reach your hands under the outsides of a sandbag and pull it to your chest. Really not much to it, though there are a few things I recommend focusing on, those being bracing and keeping your back flat. Always take a deep breath and brace before every single rep when doing the sandbag row. While I believe it's a safe exercise, it does force you into a compromised position, completely bent over and all. Of course, that's what makes it so effective, getting strong in that super awkward position, but when you're there, proper bracing is a must. Also, although it's unlikely you'll manage to have a completely flat back with the exercise, at least not initially unless you already have great mobility, and while I don't believe there's anything wrong with round back lifting, your intention should always be at least trying for a flat back. That will help a lot with bracing. If you want a program that focuses heavily on sandbag rows, check out Sandbag Intensity or the recent Bear School Witcher program I made. Next, let's cover that middle portion of the spinal erectors, the mid-back. There are a few exercises I've done over the years that hit the area well. Behind the back deadlifts in particular always felt great for this, but one exercise works this part of the back in such an intense and targeted way, there's nothing else like it. It's the sandbag shoulder carry. The reason why it works is pretty straightforward. Sandbags are wide, bulky objects, and in order to keep them from falling off the shoulder during a carry, you have to bend at least slightly to the side, placing the mid-back in a laterally flexed position, meaning lots of tension on the muscles. The shoulder carry is a simple exercise. Get a sandbag to your shoulder and start walking. Again, simple. It looks simple from the outside, but the way it feels on the inside is anything but. The first thing you'll notice when you start a shoulder carry is the fight. The exercise is a constant battle between you and the sandbag trying to fold you in half to the side. The core and arms and lats and shoulders all work to keep that bag in place, but the true battle happens in that mid-back spinal erector area. Nothing else targets this part of the body in a more direct or extreme way, at least nothing I've tried. When I started focusing on shoulder carries myself, my mid-back changed. It might not be as noticeable as some other things just looking at it, but when I feel my back now, it's like the muscles are just popping out. If you want to add some variety to the exercise, I recommend trying it with both tightly packed and underfilled sandbags. The tightly packed bag seems to target that mid-back area directly more than anything else, whereas the underfilled bag adds an extra challenge for the other muscles involved. It's a subtle difference, but it is noticeable. If you want a program that works great with this exercise, you might consider again checking out that Bear School Witcher program I mentioned. You can add shoulder carries in place of any of the 30-minute sets, or you can add them to the rotation as an additional exercise. If you use that program, I highly recommend setting your sandbag on a platform between carries. Last, we have the upper spinal erectors. This is an area that will blow up in size from sandbag lifting by default. It's inevitable. Constantly lifting with your upper back rounded around the sandbag leads to all kinds of gains. One exercise in particular, though, really hits the area more than anything else, the sandbag high pull. Now to start, I should say the high pull is essentially a sandbag loading event just without a platform. And if you have a high platform, something that's at least around upper chest height, everything I say here can be applied to that too. Also, the high pull shouldn't be confused with what's often called the sandbag extension. The high pull is unique in the way you start with a double overhand grip, hands over top of the bag, rather than around the outsides. Again, it's like how you'd set up when loading a sandbag or an atlas stone onto a tall platform. To explain why it works so well, let's first look at how the exercise is done. With a sandbag on your lap, reach your arms all the way forward over top of it as far as you can get them, while rounding your upper back completely forward too and draping your chest over the bag. Once there, take in your air and brace your core, drive your hips back, storing up power, then explode upwards with full triple extension of the ankles, knees, and hips, like you would when doing a vertical jump, while at the same time extending your upper back and throwing the sandbag up as high as you can get it. Once the bag reaches the top position, let it drop back down to your lap and repeat for reps. For simplicity, you might think of the high pull as a jump and a throw. Kinda off topic, but I've come to think of this exercise as making use of quadruple extension. I don't know if that's a real thing or if it has a different name. The simultaneous extension of the ankles, knees, hips, and thoracic spine. This combination seems pretty unique to sandbag lifting. Quick side note, the sandbag high pull can feel a bit awkward at first, especially the part of the movement where you let the bag drop back down to your lap. It took me a while to find out why, but the reason mainly comes down to clothing. If you have a slick shirt, rather than rolling back down your body from the top position, following the same path it took on the way up, the sandbag will slide down, which can throw you off. For this reason, if possible, I recommend trying the exercise without a shirt. With the sandbag in contact with your skin, it will roll back down rather than sliding, which feels less awkward. Not a huge deal, just something to consider. So, what makes the sandbag high pull so overpowered for building the upper spinal erectors? All of it really, but it's that top part of the movement I want to focus on. You start with your upper back in a rounded forward position, and as you approach the top, you extend it. This means not only do the upper erectors get worked in a flexed position, but they also work through an actual range of motion under load. This is pretty unique. Aside from a few specialty exercises like that flexion row I mentioned earlier, which are typically, though not always, done with relatively light weights, the sandbag high pull is the only exercise I can think of that actively works thoracic extension through a full range of motion on every rep. You can get extension with a lot of things. Something like a sternum pull-up is awesome for that, if a bit more for the mid-back than the upper, but with that, you only get half of the movement. Nothing else aside from sandbags take you from completely rounded forward to completely extended in the same way. I bet you could get a similar effect with a 45 hyper machine or something like that now that I think about it. Getting off topic again though. All that to say, constantly flexing and extending the upper back works the upper spinal erectors hard, and doing so makes your muscles both incredibly strong and dense. For heavy lifting, this is huge. People often focus on the lower portion of the chain, the lower back, but the top is equally as important. If your upper back is strong and better able to hold its position during heavy lifting, everything else will follow suit. For aesthetics, it's one thing to have a well-developed upper and mid-back, thick traps, rhomboids, lats, and all that, and alone, those things look cool. But like I talked about earlier in the video, add those thick spinal erectors running up along either side of the spine and you'll gain that truly yoked status. If you want a program that features the sandbag high pull, check out Sandbag Hypertrophy. It uses the movement as a main assistance exercise for the sandbag to shoulder. I have a YouTube video on the program, I also wrote a book about it, and I also just created a full 10-week video version of the program that covers everything from exercise technique to mindset and motivation. Check out the link in the description if you're interested in that. And that's it. Well-developed spinal erectors look cool, and sandbags will get you there. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.